Hello, everybody. This is Ignacio Esteban here again. It's been a while, a few months since I've done my last video talking about my latest books. Since then, I have already published close to 40 books on Amazon, dealing from a variety of topics, dealing with the worst mass shootings in American history and how to stop them from happening again. I also did a book here on Joe Biden, how I think he's one and done based on the highest inflation we have in this country, the crime situation. We have big issues with his foreign policy and other factors. I see the midterm election being not just a red wave, but a red tsunami, where the Republicans, I predict in my book, will be taking the House and the Senate, and possibly in 2024, Joe Biden will be a one-term president, where him losing to some of the other popular Republican possible contenders like Ron DeSantis, maybe Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio. He might even run. He's so unpopular with his own base, especially with the left and the socialists. He might not even consider maybe do a Lyndon B. Johnson type, where he might not even seek the nomination. That's how extremely unpopular he's become. As far as called Joe Biden One and Done, is a very popular book, a lot of insight, a lot of predictions why I don't see Joe Biden winning the nomination. Like I said, I've named a few reasons here, but obviously the disaster in Afghanistan was a huge factor also. Those bloods of those military personnel are in his hands. There was no reason to have the Taliban do security. There should have been a plan B for evacuation for our citizens in the country and our personnel. That was disastrous. Our problems we have right now are really bad, and he's pretty much compared to a Jimmy Carter. Very high interest rates, bad inflation, bad foreign policy, all the things in there to be a one-term president, and where popular Ronald Reagan pretty much routed him in 1980. I see a similar situation possible with DeSantis doing the same thing to Biden, and age is also a very, very big factor dealing with Biden. Do we want a president being in his mid-80s? Does he have the faculties to lead the country? A lot of poor decisions made during the COVID-19 situation. So a lot of things, good book, good read. My predictions, like I said, red tsunami in the midterms and one-term president for Joe Biden. The other book here, I have here interesting books on corrupt tyrants, terrorists around the world. This one here is The Rise and Fall of Gaddafi. And I go in depth looking at his life, his ending. He died in the hands of his people. He died like a coward, begging for his life. He was also involved in a lot of terrorism around the world. He funded in the name of an Arab socialist regime. He killed many people who did not believe in his country against dissidents. And he also was involved in, of course, the bombing of the Pan Am flight over Lockerbie, Scotland, the discotheque in Berlin, where we also lost Americans. He was involved in worldwide terrorists. So a fascinating look at his life and how he came about and how he died, and how possibly Libya itself in the civil war trying to see if they can find something better than they had with Gaddafi. Another corrupt regime, which I talk about, this is the title Blood, Money, and Oil, the corrupt regime of Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia right now. Some had deemed him one of the most dangerous men to ever lead Saudi Arabia and possible in the region, if not in the world. He's also been involved in mass executions of dissidents in their own country. Recently, over 80 beheadings for those who did not comply with their views. Of course, they don't have any democratic institutions. Saudis, they have their royal families who rule the country. And also they were involved in the murder of Kamal Khashoggi, Washington Post journalist, columnist, who was a journalist and editor and writer in Saudi Arabia, a major. He criticized a lot the Saudis, especially the Crown Prince. He became a target, and he was murdered in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul, Turkey. He was brought in to get some paperwork. He was ambushed. he was killed, dismembered, disposed of, and it was a cover-up by the Saudi regime to kill him based on his political views and his criticism of them. I go in much more detail about that whole situation and what happened and how the Crown Prince, something like that, comes from his approval, and is something that should be held accountable by the International Criminal Court, dealing with the United Nations Security Council, referring it to them. Problems with having with oil, foreign oil, and the sources we come with. It doesn't lead to our same moral standards that we have, and we have to deal with these nations that do these things. I also go with organized crime, a fascinating look here at the Chicago crime bosses, the history of them, the rise of Al Capone, then comes with the other families, also dealing with Sam Giancana, fascinating look at his life, his murder in his basement, his house, and his ties to trying to assassinate Fidel Castro, working with the CIA. I think it's also a good book. These books are short, well written, detailed, researched, not too expensive. Most of them under $5. Just a few of them just under $10. Those are longer, but a lot more detail. I also do travel books. I have here beautiful pictures from South Dakota. These are pictures I've taken myself on my trips with my family. Last year, we went all the way to Niagara Falls, which I have a book on that. Chicago, also here in South Dakota. This is a picture here currently of the Badlands. Amazing national park we have there, well worth looking at. You can find fossils. They're thousands and millions of years old. Unbelievable park to look at. Beautiful views all through the Badlands, Black Hill Mountains, Mount Rushmore. All these pictures are in my book. Definitely worth coming to see. I also talk about other countries where their failed situation. Same with Nigeria. They have massive corruption in that country. They're also dealing with an Islamic terrorist group, Boko Haram, which is causing complete havoc, murders, mayhem. They're pushed to create a pure Islamic state, destroying all Christians, regardless of your race, if you're white, black, what have you. It's a very bad situation there. On top of that, they have a corruption. And unfortunately, we also buy oil, the United States does, from this country, and in essence, provides support for a corrupt regime that suppresses their own people. So that's another good book to read about if you don't know much about Nigeria and what's going on. These books are short reads, just same with the Saudi Arabia one or with Gaddafi. Not longer than an hour to read. You'll read them, you'll enjoy them, you get more information, you can do more of a deep dive. I have also here an interesting book, again, on organized crime, the history of the mob in Las Vegas, from the start with Bugsy Siegel all the way to the end with Anthony Scalia and his corruption and how they die and everything in between, what goes on with the mob. Good read there. Also dealing with Yakuza, Japanese mafia. I know recently there's a TV show that's very popular. I dive in the history of Yakuza. It's been around for hundreds of years. What's going on with them, the different involvement in drug trafficking, human smuggling, prostitution, you name it, they're involved. And also in the United States, they're involved in Hawaii, from California, New York City, Washington, D.C., and recently a major arrest of a figure trying to broker deals for surface-to-air missiles, SAMs, and other weapons exchanged for drugs to countries like Burma and Sri Lanka. Very good read, detailed read. Like I said, not too long. And I also deal with Kim Jong-un, the corruption in his country, the dictatorship, control, human rights abuses, danger to our allies and ourselves with these missiles he's launching, a rogue regime, the hermit nation, out of control. They need change. They're completely out of control nation. And it's time for them to restore democracy in a nation that's been oppressed for so many years by his entire family. Same thing with the genocidal dictator, Xi Jinping. He's been in power since over 15 years. He pretty much was going to be a dictator and be there, oppressing ethnic minorities around the country. If you're a Muslim minority, there's been issues there in Tibet, the occupation of Tibet. The same thing in Hong Kong. If you don't believe in the communist regime, the CCP, you want freedom, democracy, there's no place for you. They arrest you, they imprison you, they execute you, and they kill you. I go in a lot of details about the issues with the Chinese Communist Party and the things they've done in China to those who oppose their views and want to have democracy like the United States, want to have opposing views, want to have not a one-party system. And these are things I talk about and why they should never have hosted the Winter Games and should never host any Olympic Games or anything of statute because of their abusive regime. Then I talk also about the war in the Ukraine, Putin's madness, trying to occupy a foreign sovereign nation, the human abuses, going on in the country. Good book there, talking about everything going on currently in the war in Ukraine, how Putin should be tried as a war criminal, and everything that's going on there. Also, I'm to read here, and those who don't know about Nicolas Maduro, he took over Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. He's a communist dictator, socialist. He stole the election from the last. He's an illegitimate president. He's been indicted here in the United States in the Trump administration for being a head of state, being a narco terrorist. He should be removed from office immediately. He has declared weaponizing cocaine in the United States to destroy our country, and he needs to be removed. He's illegitimate president, and he is a threat to the country, and there's no reason why the Trump administration should be even discussing talking to him to import oil to this country. He's been indicted, and he should be held accountable in this country for his crimes he's been committed. He should not be anywhere dealing with him again and give him a lifeline to start bringing billions of dollars back to his country to oppress his people. That'll be the same error we do with the Russians, with Putin, the same error we'll be doing with the Saudis, and the same error in Nigeria. None of these countries deserve American dollars for their foreign oil. We need to be financially independent, and these people are dictators, tyrants. They're criminals. All of them are criminals, and we should not be dealing with them. My last book, which I briefly talked about for my last video, has to do with my autobiography, ATF Undercover. Very good read. That I wrote myself. All these books I wrote myself. I don't have any ghostwriters. I don't have any editors. I edit everything. I write everything. I do everything myself here. And I've read, like I said, close to 40 books. This one here deals with my life, not just about my cases, but some of the office politics and waste, fraud, and abuse that I witnessed dealing with bad ATF management. I go into detail, so you want to see firsthand experience what an ATF agent went through, and I overcame that and still became a great undercover, still had great cases dealing with repeat violent offenders, dealing with gang members, armed drug dealers, international firearms traffickers, domestic firearms traffickers, dealing with, like I said, overcoming bad supervisors in ATF and everything else I have to deal with. It's a fascinating look inside ATF, and then I promoted and went to ATF headquarters, and I was able to go firsthand, see the command staff and the decisions that are made and how ATF functions and works. I have also been doing podcasts since my last video. I've been on a few shows already, talked about my books, my background, my insight, like I said, not just on cases, not just on organized crime, not just on politics, but everything else in between. So if you want to check me out also on YouTube, you can type my name, Ignacio J. Esteban. You can see these videos. You can see my different podcast shows that I have done, lengthy shows, some close to 2 hours, some a little less. Again, talk about current events here. I think this is a fascinating book here. It took me weeks to write. I have here the history of mass shootings, some of the worst and some mistakes still being made. And I think most people think it's unconscionable, 80 minutes while the shooter stays in the classroom in Uvalde, Texas, Robb Elementary, and the police don't go in there and save the students from bleeding out, or the teachers that's dying there, begging for help, making 911 calls. That's unconscionable. There's no doubt. As a former law enforcement, we have training to go in there for active shooters, and it's horrible to see things like that when you have the shooter inside. Once you start shooting, you got to move in there and neutralize and stop the threat. If not, this is what happens. You have 19 dead children and 2 dead adult teachers. Hopefully we learn these lessons, but maybe we have some solutions, and possibly could be teachers who want to be armed, teachers who have the background, teachers who have the education, teachers that want to do it can protect themselves. And just like we did after 9/11 with the pilots who want to do it, they have the classes and training that can protect their passengers and the cockpit from being attacked. I think the same thing has to be with teachers. We need more professionals at every school armed also, maybe a federal force, just like I have with TSA at the airports. The airports, remember, for years, before in the 70s, had very little security. And then with time and more attacks and more skyjackings and more hijacks and everything else, things changed. Maybe it's the same thing. Maybe every school should be also more fortified and protected. A few ideas, I wrote a lot of them down there. Please have a chance to take a look at it. I think it makes them better. And again, all my books here are free for Kindle Unlimited subscribers on Amazon, all of them, close to 40 books. So if you become a KU subscriber, you get access to all my books for free. If not, again, my books are not that expensive. Again, I also do travel books. I recently did a hiking book up in Virginia in Shenandoah National Park. Beautiful pictures there also. Also beautiful Christmas pictures in Virginia. I also have a fictional novel I wrote about winning Wimbledon against all odds. An American qualifier a young American qualifier overcoming obstacles to win Wimbledon, becoming the first qualifier to ever do so. That's never happened in Wimbledon history, but it's a novel, fictitious. One Percenters, talking briefly about Hell's Angels, Outlaws, the Vagos, the Mongols, Pagans, all the groups in there. Son of Silence, good read, detailed read, talking about cases, arrests, infiltration, and the takedown of these groups. Merchants of Death, International Firearms Trafficking, something I worked a lot also for 4 years or more. And internationally, how the world loves American-made firearms and those are imported, and how they're trafficked to organized crime and crime syndicates and the cartels and how they get there. Fascinating look on that and cases. Also prison gang killers. If you want to know more about the Mexican Mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family, MS-13, other gang groups in there and how they function inside, controlling the outside, that's also a very interesting read also. And of course, the Mexican cartels, Sinaloa, Jalisco cartel, all these groups are talked about in detail. And I also have other travel picture books, including a painting picture book of my grandfather's paintings, which are absolutely gorgeous, oil paintings that he did for years, many years, and I have them proudly displayed in my house and different families' houses. Beautiful pictures also. Again, LA gang wars, talking about all the gangs in Los Angeles, from the Bloods to Crips to the MS-13, different Mexican, Hispanic groups, Asian groups, all talked about in detail there, and what's the current situation. And it looks like it's not getting better. Even with all the arrests, unlike with the Mafia and the One Percenters, they had an impact. It seems like street gangs and prison gangs just keep on getting stronger and bigger, regardless of unsuccessful investigations and takedowns. More picture books, and of course I did some books with my daughter. I collaborated with her. Very nice kid books. She loves dancing. We also did The Princess and the Ballerina, How the Pegasus of Christmas, and My Day at the Fair, and Best Snow Day Ever. So perfect books for children around 10 and under. Nice family values, good books to read, wholesome, not too long. You can enjoy together as a family. Again, all these books are free for Kindle Unlimited subscribers. I enjoy writing. I've been doing this already for 6-7 months. Like I said, I enjoy the podcast. I want to keep on going with these. Possibly in the future, maybe some of these books will get made into movies. I'm considering that. Things I'm looking into. These are some of my seizures. So if you go to the Amazon site, you can see some of the stuff I have put down here. These are part of the Ghost Guns P80s, which I talk about, and how they also have to be, and there's, I think, legislation in Congress now to make them have backgrounds. If you have these kits where instead of just ordering and put them together, you also have to pass a background for these things. Some other seizures I have here, all things I talk about in my book, dealing with armed drug dealers, gang members, international firearms traffickers. A lot of these guns end up going not just to South America, but to Europe and around the world. So things we have to tighten up here in this country to make things safer and better. And again, a little bit of everything, from organized crime to politics to travel, locations. So please enjoy the books. Have a chance to read them. Again, this is Ignacio Esteban. You can follow me on Amazon. Click on right here, and you can see when I release more books. More are coming. I'm working on other organized crime groups, possibly doing one with the Marcello crime family coming out, and maybe even with LA mobsters, with Jack Dragna and other criminals. So I found like people like to read about these books. They're fascinating how they form and how they end up falling. And most of them have the same. If you're in Chicago or if you're in Las Vegas, you know, you go into organized crime, ends up two ways for you. Either you get incarcerated on federal RICO charges, or you end up getting killed by your own or by a rival. So that's the same. That's what they all have in a common denominator. All right, folks. Well, it's been good talking to you all, and I hope to do another video soon. It's been a while. Again, you can also follow me and hear me on different podcast shows, doing more, and a possible movie. I'll be working on possibly down the road on some of my other books. All right. Well, until next time, Ignacio Esteban here. Take care.